Tucker Carlson has a theory as to why the Taliban was able to so quickly retake control of Afghanistan. Here it is.
Kabul has just fallen. It might be worth asking the most obvious question of all. Why did the Taliban win? How did the 6th century triumph over the 21st century? There are indications that the single most notorious and reviled government in the world, primitive people famous for their brutality, rigidity, and humorlessness, are more popular in parts of Afghanistan than they were when we expelled the mullahs from Kandahar 20 years ago. They don't seem to be less popular. So how did that happen? What's the answer? We ought to pause to think about that. Let's not just blow past it like it was an act of God. It's not. What is the answer? Well, countries are very complicated, all of them, so there are likely many answers. But one of those answers may be that the population of Afghanistan has firmly rejected what our leaders were selling it over 20 years. It turns out that the people of Afghanistan don't actually want gender studies symposia. They didn't actually buy the idea that men can become pregnant. They thought that was ridiculous. They don't hate their own masculinity. They don't think it's toxic. They like the patriarchy. Some of their women like it too. So now they're getting it all back.
So Jordan, you've seen a lot of the takes. There's a lot of bad takes out there. There always are. There are on this. I'm not an expert on Afghanistan. I don't think that that's why. I don't think that any of that word salad there is on the top 500 reasons that the Taliban now controls Afghanistan. I don't think someone was like, man, I really don't want to return to like 1998 era Afghanistan, but hey, wait a second, is that theater hosting gender like studies speakers? Well, let me get the burqa. I don't think that that is why any of this happened. What do you think? Am I missing something?
Well, I mean, on this point, I mean, Tucker Carlson is somebody who has described people in Afghanistan and Iraq in the past as semi-literate primitive monkeys. So as a baseline, that's his worldview. So this jingoism that he, that informs his foreign policy, his lines like this is a primitive society, these are brutal people. It's all rooted in this white nationalism. But the idea that the Taliban succeeded because of like critical race theory being taught in elementary schools or something is so funny. It just shows they're just playing the hits. They're ultimately phoning the segment in because I don't know. No one gives a no one cares outside of the Fox Republican internet worldview. The culture war BS that we see here. The idea that the Taliban would care about that, or that people in Afghanistan would be motivated by putting a woman in Star Wars as a lead character, like that, it's real. Honestly, it's funny. It's funny to think about. Yeah. I mean, this is something you would see in like a satire website.
Yeah, I'm glad that you didn't acknowledge it. I think that Daisy Ridley and Kelly Marie Tran really do have a lot to answer for in terms of military preparedness. I think, look, it's so aggressively stupid. Pompeo yesterday said it was because of critical race theory. Again, okay, so I get that they're trying to, like, it's always the government beneath the government they're talking about. It's the deep state or whatever, but like, okay, so then why did Trump do all of this? Like, he was in charge, right? He was the big alpha general, right? Why was he doing gender symposia? Is that what he was doing? It's just so stupid. And by the way, let's also not miss that in that list of things that they're rejecting, he was not just laying out, here are things that the US was imposing, they're against it. It's just a coincidence, I suppose, that Tucker Carlson also hates all of those things, that he is very intently lining himself up with the Taliban, which, by the way, you're on Twitter every once in a while, Jordan. That has not been rare over the last 48 hours. Like sometimes veiled, sometimes fairly transparent. Like, the Taliban is better in a variety of ways. Takes coming from the right, they really do seem to be lining up with the Taliban because they do agree with the Taliban on a number of different things. There are obviously differences that should go without saying, but their view on a lot of different groups in society are not that dissimilar. Their belief about vaccines, about abortion, all that stuff. And like, it's not like, Tucker's doing a big thing about how the Taliban sucks and I'm trying to say how they're close. He's effectively defending the Taliban, saying they have rejected the things that have made us weak. The US military, he continually does his segments about how it's too feminized. And we're letting transgender people serve and all of that. He's laying out that the Taliban is doing it better than we do. And I don't think that that's an accident. Why don't we give a little bit more and see if he makes any more sense in this segment?
So maybe it's possible that we failed in Afghanistan because the entire neoliberal program is grotesque. It's a joke. It's contrary to human nature. It answers none of our deepest human desires. It is merely a performance staged for the performer. It's not even supposed to improve your life. It's ridiculous. And ideas that ridiculous can only be imposed by force, only with armed men at gunpoint. The moment these ideas are not mandatory, the second the troops withdraw, in fact, people tend to revert to the lives that they prefer to live. That may be the real lesson of Afghanistan. Let's hope our leaders notice it.
Okay, so really fast, two things. So one, there have been a lot of takes, some I think honest, some clearly designed to get us back into Afghanistan of, man, it really does suck to think about what it must be like right now in Afghanistan to be a member of the LGBTQ community or a woman who has had rights that they didn't have under the Taliban. Tucker's not having any of that. All of the improvement of the condition of the lives of all of those people over the last 20 years is worth nothing. And you should not spare an ounce of empathy for any of them. They secretly didn't like that stuff anyway. You noticed his stuff about how the women like the patriarchy too. They're actually secretly hoping to be dominated. That was his point. And how twisted, Jordan, that he says these sorts of beliefs can only be implemented at the barrel of a gun. And as soon as those guns are gone, people revert to the way they really want to live. Wait a second, so was the Taliban coming in with roses and apple pie? I feel like they had some guns. I feel like they just conquered the country. But not for our values, not that lib experiment, for the values that Tucker wants. Those are literally being implemented at the barrel of a gun right now, and that's cool. Let's not even talk about that. But the gender symposia, transgender girls in sports, that stuff, the libs gotta have guns to get you to support that. It's just so nonsensical, so twisted. I feel bad for anyone having to watch that trying to make sense of the damn thing.
Yeah, I'm just imagining the Taliban going door to door to make sure no one's doing critical race theory inside. Like this idea that like anybody cares about any of this outside of, like this is like also these are like purely like wealthy conservative problems. Like people who have like a suburban home and a boat and a nice truck and an arsenal of guns in their basement, who think their like liberties and freedom are under attack, who think they're victims of tyranny, like that. Like those are the type of people who think that anybody outside of their own community cares about any of this. I mean, they're just projecting, as we saw with like people on every different side projecting their worldview onto this, and as the right does so many times with every sort of culture war thing during the Trump administration. The common refrain was, this is why Trump won. I mean, no, it wasn't. Like no one votes for like that. I mean, I'm sure a handful of people do, but like you're not going to get a critical mass of people to show up and vote in mass in a national election over like what a seventh grader, a transgender runner winning a silver medal in an event like that. No one cares. So this is just Tucker's mission is to continue to divide, continue to afflict marginalized people, continue to cast them out of society, to marginalize them even further. That's what he wants. And whatever story is in the news, that's the current vehicle. So right now, it's the Taliban. It's the Taliban taking over, and that is somehow gender studies' fault.
Exactly. Yeah. He didn't like. I'm surprised he didn't try to imply that like senior leadership of the Afghan security forces would have stood up, but then they noticed that the publisher of Dr. Seuss pulled a couple books they'd never read and decided, what's it worth? Why bother? For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.